Hey everybody, what is going on? It is Crypto Bobby. Hope you are having a great day, great night wherever you're watching in from. Welcome to another edition of Crypto Happy Hour. I have Jesse from Bloom here, who is our first ever live guest on Crypto Happy Hour. So what's going on, Jesse?
How's it going? Great. I'm glad to be the first one. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Just making sure everything is adjusted here, and we have everybody taking a look at the comments to make sure we are all good to go live. What is going on, Steve, Tanish, Frank, Leonardo? What is happening? Yeah, I'm excited today because, like I said, we have Jesse on, who's one of the co-founders of Bloom. If you've heard of Bloom before, that's awesome. If not, we'll talk a little bit about that today, and then just some other things about what is going on in the marketplace overall. And so Jesse is going to be here till 6:30. I'll probably be hopping on a little bit later than that, so we'll go a little bit longer than that to take as many of your questions as possible here. But I guess just a quick introduction on your end, Jesse. I talked to you like we were talking about a little bit before, but talked to you a little bit. I think it was back in September before Bloom started the ICO, and a lot of this stuff has gone down, but would love to hear, just have you provide a little bit of an introduction for everybody else as far as kind of who you are and what your role is in crypto, and we'll talk about a few different things.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for having me on again. I really appreciate it. I was just talking to you before how big your channel's gotten, so it's great to see the growth of both you and crypto space in general. Let's see. So as a high-level overview, Bloom brings credit scoring to the blockchain. It's a fully decentralized credit score. Essentially, there's a lot of problems with the credit scoring right now. Your scores don't work across borders. Your scores reset when you move to a new country. In the US, FICO is essentially a monopoly. They scored 90% of US loans. And then just outside of this, when you apply for a loan, you have to give away your social security number. It puts you at high risk of identity theft. There's constant data leaks and privacy concerns. And so Bloom has built the first fully decentralized credit score. It works around the world. It takes in a lot more signals and factors than something like FICO or a traditional credit report. And it doesn't matter whether you're in a nation that has a credit score, whether you're in a nation with thick financial infrastructure, you can, through decentralized lending and the partners building on top of us, get a loan anywhere, even if you don't have access to typical financial products.
Yeah. Awesome. And so I guess one of the things too, I mean, like I said, we talked back in September before kind of all the ICO went down, and now you're at the tail end. I think there's like 3 days left. It's basically the month of December for you. But as far as things go, like what's been, I'm curious because I've obviously never run an ICO, and I'm kind of an outsider looking in at this stuff. What's been like the biggest surprise to you about starting a crypto company and running an ICO? What's been like the biggest surprise for you just long term as far as that goes?
Everything was brand new. I would say we were really, there was no way for us to predict how well or not well it would do ahead of time. Like we had our Slack, we had a few thousand people in Slack. Mm-hmm. We had a good, healthy email newsletter, something like, I think at the start of the token sale, it was something like 15,000 people signed up and ended up getting a lot higher. And we had consistent blog views and stuff, but there was no way to know if somebody was actually going to, log into MetaMask, log into my wallet and contribute to the sale. And we had nearly now, let me check, we've had over 4,900 unique addresses contribute to the sale.
Yeah.
And I think I was just really pleased to see how strong the community was in referring other people. That said, there's negatives too. The amount of work involved just outpaced even our wildest expectations. We thought we could have passively managed Slack, passively managed email, but I would say just, if you were to treat it like support tickets, we probably had on the order of 20,000 messages from, contributors, gas fees not working, CryptoKitties bogging down the network. We had to end up taking shifts literally in like the middle of the night, like who wasn't going to sleep tonight, because most of us are based on, either East Coast or Pacific time. So we were taking shifts like who's not going to sleep to like respond to Slack. And we totally were not prepared for the volume of support, just wallet support and, Ethereum support that we'd have to do during the sale. But next time, if there
Yeah.
is a next time.
Yeah, I hear you. And so I would say on your end, I think I'm just trying to make sure that the video output is good here too. And what is going on, everybody, in the comments as well. One thing that I'm kind of curious of, and you're probably in one of the better places to actually provide some feedback on it, but there's obviously, when you're raising money in an ICO kind of over a certain period of time, the price of whatever it is, Ethereum or Bitcoin or whatever it might be, can tend to fluctuate pretty significantly. I'm kind of curious as far as how things go on your end, because I think I was pulling it up before and I was looking at it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think your ICO started like back on December 1st, maybe, or around that time frame, and Ethereum has gone from like $400 or so to $700. How has that affected things in any way whatsoever for you guys? Any just overall thoughts on that? Would be curious to hear it.
Yeah, so we took a big decision on Bloom. Bloom is it's a utility token, so it's not an investment in the sense that there's no equity, there's no stock, and so deciding how to price a utility token, you have a couple options. You can price it in dollars or fiat, in which case the ETH rate fluctuates, or you can price it in an ETH rate. Now, pricing it in dollars means that there's a lot of risks with that. You have to trust some third-party source on getting the price. It's more open to, it's possible that the ETH, goes wildly up or down, and it varies the rate. And so we spoke with the community, and we decided, because, this is going to be used long-term in the network, to peg it to ETH. Now, that has some pros and some drawbacks. The pros were that, ETH went up. The project is well capitalized. We have a lot more resources now to make Bloom very successful. It also means that our project is more pegged to ETH, so people think of Bloom as an asset that's something that you can buy with Ethereum, as opposed to something that's going to fluctuate in dollar terms. But the downside is now it's more costly. With smart contracts, you can't change them. They're immutable. Once you design them, there's nothing you can do. And so even if we wanted to change the way we price, which we don't, we're happy with how we did it. But if we did, there's no way. And so a lot of the same, not a lot, but there was a handful of community members that opted to peg, they voiced their support in pegging the price to ETH. And then later they're like, well, now we want to do the opposite, but smart contracts don't work that way, unfortunately.
No, I hear you. And so one question too that I have, and probably a little bit maybe more just on like the general crypto space, but I'm going to scroll down here if I can get there on the website. But obviously your team has some pretty legit advisors. You have Joey Krug from Augur, you have Luis from Aragon. So you have a number of people that are pretty big in and well known in the crypto space. What type of advice or comments do they give you as far as creating a company? Like what have you learned, or what's been like the biggest thing? And maybe I'll piggyback that off. I'll piggyback that, and we'll maybe take like a second part of the question. But as far as how can you just kind of continually building a successful product in the future? What have you learned from people like Joey and Luis as well?
Yeah, that's a great point. We also added a new advisor, the former chief scientist of Experian joined as well. He basically was responsible for designing Experian's, credit scoring and their newest infrastructure, their big three credit bureau, kind of like their traditional world version of Bloom. And they've provided considerable support. But I would say there's a few points that I think have really stuck with me that I've learned from them. And that's one, just focus on the product. And so there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of, it's the crypto community. So there are people that are they like to speculate about whether it'll be successful, not be successful, whether this will happen or that will happen. And we've been able to make consistent headway and progress with the lenders building on us, with the partners building on us, by just always being heads down in product. So above all else, we put product first. The second is listen to what the community is saying. There's a lot of projects that if you scroll through Reddit, you scroll through Slack, it seems so obvious on what they're doing wrong or what they're doing right, but the project just doesn't take note to it. And so every single day we have a routine where we if we essentially see almost every post or video or piece of content that comes our way, we might not respond to every one of them, just thousands, but we see everything. And so we have ongoing discussions on, if we're doing the right thing. There are people that, get involved in lengthy discussions with us. So we put a huge focus on community. And the third thing, and this is more of a personal thing, but there's a lot of times, they call them with yo moments, where effed it's over. And so there's a lot of these moments where just something, ETH could crash, or CryptoKitties could clog the network, or maybe you get a bad YouTube review or something. There's all these moments where you think it's just going to be catastrophic ending, but you just keep moving forward, and then overall, that's what building companies about.
That's funny. Yeah, CryptoKitties probably threw a fucking wrench in the.
No, it was like $20 gas fees at one point, and we had 90% of something of transactions rejecting. And the way ETH works, you send that transaction, you leave your computer, there is no notification. You get a notification in your wallet that it didn't go through, but people move on. They leave.
Yeah.
They know the network's slow, and a lot of people don't do high gas fees. They didn't do high enough way. And so we basically had quite a few days where there was no, we got some contributions. Some people learned their way around it, but it was, it was rough.
Yeah. I remember throwing some money into ICOs, I think Status and 10X, back in July and August, when it was people are just freaking out about ICOs. And if you didn't have that money in the first 10 seconds, and if it wasn't, and they would say there's a gas limit, but there wasn't really a gas limit on the smart contract. So I was still pissed off that I didn't get into the 10X ICO a while ago. So, but it is what it is.
Well, that's why, state channels, scaling, lightning networks, sharding, all of the things that can potentially increase Ethereum's throughput there's really not enough emphasis on that. And, if there's any projects that we support, personally, that would back or donate to, it would be the project scaling Ethereum over the long run, because that's something that everyone needs to endorse for this space to really, really continue to grow.
For sure. And kind of jumping off that as well, what are you, outside of Bloom, is there anything else you're really excited about in crypto right now, whether it's Ethereum scaling, or if there's any other projects that have you pretty excited? Anything at this point in time that you're pretty excited about to see how it might develop in the future, how it might advance?
Yeah, there's a few. The launch of the first stablecoin, Maker's stablecoin, just launched. And a stablecoin is essentially a coin that's, it doesn't fluctuate much in value. It's pegged to the dollar.
Good old Tether.
It's kind of like Tether, except
it's not fake.
It's DAI's. It's called DAI. It's Maker's stablecoin. It's a debt asset, and so what that basically means is it's collateralized by Ethereum or other tokens or assets, and you don't have to trust anyone. The way they have a system of supply and demand economics that just keep it flat, and it's still experiment. It's still early. It's not 100% flat right now, but I think this is going to be a game changer for us, for everyone, because if I was going to lend you one Bitcoin, or one Ethereum, so you could, I don't know, buy go on vacation or something, right? Well, pay it back in 6 months. You could easily owe back 10 times the amount of money I lent you, right? And so there really is no good way to lend a fixed fiat loan. And now there is. So I could lend you DAI, and you could convert that into USD and pay back later. Just do whatever you need to do in dollars and pay back the DAI. Or for prediction markets, this is critical, for futures, for shorts, for hedging. And so I think this is going to be a game changer for the whole crypto ecosystem. It only has 500 holders right now. Not many people have seen it yet, but I think it's going to be a game changer.
Awesome. Yeah, I see so many people saying different things about stablecoins, and it's you have guys in the legal side of the house, and it's funny because it's either people think it's going to be a game changer, or people think it's literally just not possible at all, and then the whole Tether controversy just blows everything up. I think even last night they printed 50 million new Tether, and then that briefly spiked the price of Bitcoin until the South Korean news happened or whatever it was, but it was pretty funny to see that. And I think we got one question here regarding Bloom, so I'll take that in a second. But just wanted to say hi to what's up, David. Hey, what's up, Lance? John, what's going on? And being that it is it's almost 6 o'clock here. I am already drinking Macallan, so I figured why not have that for crypto happy hour. Yeah, I'm assuming you're working, Jesse. So no whiskey at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon for you. But
no.
I got the week off of work, so I'm all right. I'll live. But let me just try to find this question again here. So there we go. So Cable Tech Helper said, how does one start a credit history with Bloom? What's that process like?
Well, that's a great question. So the way traditional credit scores work is you kind of have to change your behaviors and change your patterns in order to get a credit score. You take out the credit builder credit card, make sure to use it a little, not too much, pay it on time every month. Like you have to do a lot of these behavior changing things. Don't close out your old account. Don't check your score too much. You have to change your behavior in order to build a credit history. And that's the way credit had to be when there wasn't a lot of data. But the game has changed. Today we have APIs that will tell you your on-time payments for your utility bills. We've got data about your on-time payments, your cell phone bills, insurance bills. We can check your bank balance if you authorize it. We can see, your identity metrics. There's so many more metrics available about your ability to repay a debt. So on Bloom, we still will track debt payments, but the only thing you need to do to generate a Bloom score is sign up for a Bloom ID. Bloom ID sign up, it starts January 1st as soon as our token sale completes. The score is not done yet. That's going to come in a later phase. But the first step is to verify your ID, register your email, confirm your phone. And once you have an ID in a system, then over time, we're going to be rolling out more, we call them identity attestations, more ways to build out your identity. And with that, automatically, essentially, there's nothing you have to do except be in the system. Will automatically be able to track your creditworthiness. You'll be able to get insights on what's included, get feedback on how you can improve it, instead of being a black box like the current credit scores.
For sure. And so this is one question too. And I was looking at a couple different things and some random posts, and somebody who is a big in the, let's say, just the ICO review game, said that considered you guys to be a white paper ICO. What would you say to that as far as your development and how things go? Like, I'm sure that's a pretty broad label, but how would you consider? How would you rebuke that, or how would you respond to somebody saying you guys are a white paper ICO?
I would say sign up for Bloom ID on January 1st in 4 days.
There we go.
I mean, in the sense that our credit score isn't built and like the financial system isn't currently using Bloom, that's true. Yeah. But we've John and Alan, my co-founders, they started Stanford Bitcoin Group in 2013, early 2013. It was a development and research group to build blockchain applications. They've built one of the largest companies in all of crypto, powers major exchanges and financial institutions. There's a very high likelihood that if you are a crypto user, you've ran through code that's written by John and Alan. We've been programming, in Bloom for nearly a year now. We've got models, historical data that we've tracked. I mean, it's extremely robust. We're going to be one of the earliest fully launched mainnet dApps. Well, our mainnet dApp launched on January 1st. And starting the first of the year, you'll be able to register a Bloom ID. You'll be able to vote on protocol components. You'll be able to invite people and refer other people. And so I guess we could have done a better job open sourcing code, which we had and we have. We could have made it, did more development updates to kind of explain the fact. But, we were pretty consistent talking on Slack for the last, I don't know how many months on exactly. We've been developing every day. So
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a pretty solid response. And I'm looking through some of these comments here as well. And so one comment too, and I'm curious. I haven't really done that much research too into Salt, but somebody said, how is this different than Salt, or how might you guys compare? Is there any type of synergy there? I know that's another big project in the space.
Yeah, no, Salt, the Salt team is an amazing project, amazing team over there. I mean, Salt has an excellent use case. It's collateralized lending, meaning you can lock up crypto and they will give you fiat. So if you want fiat but you don't want to lose the crypto upside, it's a great way to do it. And with with Bloom, we are not a lender. So Bloom never lends funds. If we do, it will be for small tests, but we're not ever going to be the lender, the bank that's lending.
Sure.
We're more like the FICO or the credit bureau, and we provide the identity and the risk information. So we've got loads of lenders building on us. Everix is a pretty big token sale, ETHLend, Lendoit, a lot of peer-to-peer lenders, a lot of traditional lenders. We've spoken with the Salt team where they're not currently building on top of Bloom, but projects like theirs would be able to leverage our credit score and a risk assessment to determine if they wanted to make a loan. And so huge synergies, nothing but positive things to say about the project.
Awesome. Awesome. And I'm seeing some funny comments too. Somebody's saying that Salt and just lending it's all BitConnect. And funny story, I don't know if you guys saw on Twitter, but so my dad somebody emailed me or shot my wife a text and was like, hey, I heard Bitcoin's a fraud. And then it was an article from Bitcoin.com that was about BitConnect being a Ponzi scheme. And I was like, okay, Bitcoin's not actually a fraud. It's not a Ponzi scheme. That's an article about BitConnect. And then like 30 minutes later, my dad sends me a text message, or my dad forwards me an email from one of his friends for USI Tech. And he's like, hey, should I buy BitConnect or should I buy Bitcoin this way? And I'm like, no, run for the fucking hills. So it's a crazy market, but definitely BitConnect and Salt lending and ETHLend and a lot of those are not the same thing. So
yeah, BitConnect is I haven't used it, I haven't touched it. I would stay away from it. Lending is one of the biggest, both collateralized and uncollateralized lending are some of the most impactful ways you could build wealth. Getting a house, banks will lend you, funds for a mortgage at 3, 4, 5% interest rate, which is like very low relative to like the cost of money. Starting a business, getting a loan for college education, and then on those are for building wealth. But then once you have wealth, getting collateralized cash off of your assets allow you to give you leverage, buy you more things. Be more efficient with how you are exposed to taxes and risk. And so lending is like a massive economic driver. If you break in the countries and the product and the businesses that leverage lending versus those that don't, there's massive discrepancies. Yeah. And crypto doesn't really have lending infrastructure yet. Salt's a great one. Hopefully Bloom can bring, the credit bureau or the credit scoring to the picture to do uncollateralized lending, meaning you can get, like a credit card or loan without, putting up capital. For sure. But you have to research projects to make sure you know what you're getting into.
Yeah, for sure. So two questions there. One, when you talked a little bit about getting a credit card, utilizing Bloom ID credit in the future, kind of curious as far as how, I don't know if you have any relationships yet, but with the 10Xs, the Metals, the Monacos, do you see that as a potential area for synergy? And then an unrelated question that I saw from somebody else, how many people are actually working full-time on Bloom currently?
So a couple questions here. So the first is around credit cards and debit cards. We think there's going to be a lot of different partners building various credit cards on top of Bloom infrastructure. Right now there's thousands, tens of thousands of credit cards built on FICO and credit bureaus.
For sure.
And Bloom works in the traditional world. It works, for fiat lending. It works for crypto lending. So, theoretically, they're not building on us, but theoretically, like a United Mile, plus points card or something like that, or Chase, bank rewards card, they could theoretically replace the credit bureaus that they're using with Bloom, and it would work no problems. Their existing infrastructure would work. And so we hope and we will encourage projects like 10X, Monaco, Token Card that are building debit cards to build credit cards on our infrastructure. And they actually have a leg up because they can send in transaction data to us and be better at risk assessment if they can offer their debit card used as a credit card based on their debit card transactions, their bank balance, things like that. And so again, huge synergies. We're already working with one partner to build the Bloom card, which is the first prototype credit card on top of Bloom's platform. Our plan isn't to run this long term, but to show what's possible. Yeah. Then on full time, we have about 20 people that work on Bloom in various roles. Not all of them are full time. About half of the team is full time overall. Right now, Bloom historically has been self-funded from the founders, meaning we haven't raised any outside capital. We didn't do any massive pre-sale discounts or anything like that. So for the people and the team members that could afford to be full-time, we're full-time. For anyone that had other obligations while we were building it and while we weren't funding, they were not full-time. Yeah. But obviously, that's why token sales are excellent for giving more funding and more resources to expand the team and hire more full-time people.
For sure, for sure. One question there too, kind of based off what you mentioned. This is just like overall in the crypto space, and I'm not sure how many like ICO participants or contributors or investors are in the chat right now. Would love to hear too from you guys as far as what ICOs you participated in the past. But I think one of the big problems out there, or one of the big issues that I've seen, is like these massive discounts that get thrown to whatever institutional investors it is, or whatever crypto hedge fund it is. And I've gotten a chance to see some of these, and I've developed like a little network of guys that work in finance in New York, and they kind of let me in on some of this. They kind of let me in and give me a little bit of thoughts as far as like who's getting in on what ICO and what discount percentage and all that stuff. Do you think that and I know too, I think like Ryan Selkis, I think his project is like Masari, that's trying to tackle that a little bit as far as like adding some context and some color to some context and some color to that. But do you see that as like a potential issue in the future, like some of maybe the lack of transparency around some of like the ICOs that have happened in the past, or is that any thoughts on that at all?
Yeah, so like really strong views on this. A lot of people like discounts, so they think they're beneficial, but economics doesn't really support this concept of giving discounts. Now, it's one thing to give a discount if it's really early on, the project needs funding, they can't self-fund it, and you need to give a discount because the project or the tokens, they aren't worth anything. In that case, sure, it functions more like an investment than a utility token, and it has its place. Now, a lot of people think that discounts just is free money that you just get a return automatically. But what ends up happening is for tokens that do end up getting traded on a market, the price of the token becomes the average discount. And so if a project that does $20 million pre-sale gave it at an 80% discount, it's quite possible that for the people that end up contributing at the end, they're contributing to a losing project. Sure, they're risking their capital. And so I don't support huge discounts. If you do discounts, I support full transparency. How much was raised? What was the average discount? Who did you give the discount to? What was the average lockup period? If there's transparency, there's actually no problems, because then contributors can take that into account. But the problem comes when there's no transparency. You don't know what rate these tokens were sold at, whether they were utility tokens or investment tokens. And you're essentially stepping into buying an item that could be worth a fraction of what you paid for it.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you on that. I mean, I think the one crappy part, and at least from what I see, I mean, most of the people that I get a chance to talk to, and I'm sure most of the people watching this right now, are not necessarily like the accredited investors out there. And getting the public sale or like the normal pre-sale, not the pre-sale with the 75% off discount or whatever. And then when there's no lockup on a lot of those tokens, and somebody gets it at a 70% discount, and then the second that hits an exchange, dumps right on your head, and then that drops the entire price. Like that's always rough to see for a lot of people out there. So I definitely agree.
I think one thing that the space needs is, I think it's super important that people know what they're buying. I think projects need to make it very clear if their token is designed to be an investment. Meaning, is it designed to pay returns? Is it designed to grow in value? Is it designed to be on an exchange? And in those cases, like, the discounts become super important. You have to treat it like an investment.
Mm-hmm.
Or if the token is designed to be used in a network or in an ecosystem, and a lot of, there's some murkiness, there's some gray area. I'm not saying it's pure black and white, but right now people are not exactly clear what they're buying into, and a lot of people are buying into, they're, like you said, they're buying into, potentially things that are going to get, dumped on an exchange. And so we support, we've tried to do as best of job as we possibly could, and I'm sure we could always do better. But from early on, we've been super clear on exactly what to expect, exactly what we're doing, exactly what discounts we've given, who we've given them to. We give an average discount of 15% to really strategic people, so lenders, partners building on Bloom. The tokens were locked up for ranging from 3 months to a year, and it was a very small percentage of our overall sale. And it was designed to get strategic people in early so that they could, build on us and make intros. And we let everyone know that before the start of the sale. The numbers were public. You could see it. We disclosed everything. And so I think, and we've also been very clear that it's not an investment. There's no ROI. There's no dividends. We have not spoken to any exchanges. If you're speculating on a price increase, you should not participate in the sale. We've done all of our marketing towards lenders and people that, or people that borrowers that need loans or want loans. And so I think there's a lot of misinformation in the market that I hope gets cleaned up.
For sure. And one thing too, so one just random question, and it's always good to clear it up, but somebody said, is Bloom paying for this interview? It's not a sponsored post, or it's not a paid for. I actually did personally participate in the Bloom ICO. I contributed to that back, I think, like the first couple of days that went live. So I did personally put money through some ETH into the Bloom ICO, but it's not being paid for or anything like that. It's not a sponsored post. So yeah, this is literally, I had talked to Jesse back in September and was just excited to get an opportunity to speak with him again. And really just selfishly, I like speaking to people that are actively involved in the space, because so much of my view is from the outside. And I feel like the more that I can kind of get a really good inside understanding of things, the better it is for me, and hopefully the better content that I could bring to you guys as well. Somebody said they paid him in buffalo chicken wraps. I would take payment in buffalo chicken wraps for an interview. So that is that is true. But yeah, just wanted to let you guys know that and clear that up in case any of you were wondering that. Not a sponsored post or anything like that.
Yeah, and your videos are, there's a lot of I'm not actually particularly against people supporting a YouTube channel or paying for it, but I think it needs to be clear, and I think there's a lot of pump and dumps. There's a lot of scams. There's a lot of people that are promoting, whatever things they're promoting heavily. And one of the things I liked about your channel, it was one of the first interviews I did, and I've done a bunch, but one of the things I liked about your channel is, where you're knowledgeable and where you're not. You're very clear on what's actually happening. You don't particularly take a side. You don't get involved in the scaling debate, or should we do this, or
try not to get murdered.
And everything. It's really relaxed, balanced, and I think that's why you've grown so much over the last over the last few months.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man, very much. And I'm looking at some of these comments here to see if we have any questions at all. I think when I was on my soapbox there, I missed a few questions, so just taking a look back here. And like I said, I think you're good till 3:30 or so. Yeah, maybe. So we'll have Jesse here for another 15 minutes or so. After that, I'll stick around. I might have to refill up my drink, but after that, I'll definitely stick around to take a lot more just kind of overall thoughts on the marketplace. I see a crap ton of people asking about Ripple, Verge, and every other popular coin right now. So we'll definitely hop into all those questions that you have there. So one other, let me just pull up kind of my little list of questions here. So one question that I had, by my pretty loose mathematical calculations here, looks like you guys have raised about like $30 million at this point in time with the current price of Ethereum. I think you had an initial hard cap of $50 million.
Yep.
How does that affect the plan going forward if you don't reach the hard cap? Is that like a big deterrent, or is that not necessarily? I guess, could you talk a little bit about kind of the money you've raised so far, what that's going to, and if you don't hit the hard cap, what does that mean for your company?
Yep. So our we've well surpassed our goal. Our goal was 5 mil. That was our soft cap. If we didn't hit the soft cap, everyone's Ethereum got refunded essentially. And so we're thrilled to be 6 times more than our goal. Hard cap was 50 million. It's could hit it, could not. Typically, the last couple of days of token sales are as strong as the start. And at the first day, we raised about, I think it was around 10 million or so. And so it could go either way at this point still. So fingers crossed. But the funds are going to be used for Bloom is a real long-term project. So we see Bloom as like a 30-year vision, not like a build it in 1 year. Initially, it's going to be the obvious things, development, and I think we'll have our first live loans issued in 2018.
Awesome.
And the first version of Bloom ID is going live in just a few days. And then after that, Bloom IQ, which tracks debt obligations, and then Bloom Score, and then Bloom Card, and then more invitation and credit building infrastructure. But initially development, but then over time, the funds are going to be used for market expansion. So actually attracting people to generate Bloom IDs and acquiring more lenders. Now, we aren't going to lend the funds, but we're going to essentially be using funds to acquire more lenders. One of the things we want to achieve long-term is a fully fair, fully decentralized liquid marketplace for lending. So what that means is that you can click a button and bam, you get a loan. Or you click a button and you see exactly which loans you can get and what the interest rate is. It doesn't matter where it is in the world. And there's pools of lenders that are providing the capital. And so to make a liquid marketplace for lending happen is going to take considerable effort over the next many years. On to the question about what happens if we don't hit the hard cap. So essentially, the unsold tokens, if there are any unsold tokens left, they're going to be locked up in a long-term multisig out of circulation. The wallet address will be public. We won't be using them. They don't go to the team.
Not in a parity multisig, right?
Hopefully not. No. We don't use parity, but they'll be locked up, and then essentially we won't spend them for a long time. But over time, as the network becomes fully autonomous and decentralized, as no one governs it, no one controls it, over time, maybe even the Bloom Inc. could fade away, the company behind it, and this just becomes, a protocol like the web or BitTorrent or something.
Sure.
Those unused tokens could be used to update the scores, could essentially be converted to pay for gas fees because it's very, very expensive to update scores. And so the other alternative would essentially sort of be like tax the network or make people pay for their own score updates. But that would be like FICO charging you to update your credit score.
Yeah.
And so we plan on saving those tokens, if there are any left, just to support the network over the next 30 years from now, updating the scores, but not going to the team, not getting a big bonus or anything like that. Just locked away.
Awesome. And one thing I would say too, as far as how you built your platform is built on Ethereum, right? Or utilizing Ethereum, correct? Yeah. How has you've talked a little bit about scaling, and I had a conversation with somebody else previously who had built, I think it was an accounting, kind of like a high-level accounting solution on Ethereum, and he was kind of going on and on about some of the issues in terms of the transactions and how much it's costing now to do basically anything, and how they're kind of re-engineering it and really hoping, kind of basically just praying for scaling issues to get solved quickly. Has it presented any difficulties with Ethereum and building a platform a company and a platform on Ethereum? I guess, could you talk a little bit about how that's been from a technical standpoint?
Yeah, so there, Ethereum is not scalable yet at all, and so that's bad in the sense it could not support 7 billion people's credit scores on chain. It couldn't happen. Yeah. So we initially take we have a hybrid approach using IPFS and Ethereum. IPFS is it's an interplanetary file system. It's like a decentralized internet. You can store things on there. It's for Filecoin's working on, and so. It allows us to do a lot of less scalable things while still maintaining full decentralization. Now, over time, that doesn't get us all the way there. So we will be. I know another Teal fellow named Liam Horn's working on generalized state channels, which is a way to increase the number of payments that can happen off chain while still being fully decentralized, which is a huge step in the right direction. Obviously the Ethereum Foundation's, working on Shard and Casper, but yeah, I mean, for us and for every other project, Ethereum must scale, and we are not just crossing our fingers hoping that Ethereum Foundation gets to it. Like, we're actively meeting with them, discussing with them, figuring out if there's any way we can help, whether it's a contribution or a donation to their project, or engineering support. We plan on allocating massive resources to ensuring that Ethereum scales for both us and for everyone else.
Yeah, and that's one thing too I've seen, like, kind of talked around on Twitter a little bit, and with some of the engineers, it's like I don't remember how many software developers and engineers are right now developing on top of Ethereum, and then it's just like maybe like 200x of the actual number that's developing the Ethereum, kind of the actual Ethereum code itself.
It's a very small number. When you meet with, like, I've met a lot of people at Ethereum Foundation. They're great guys. They're exceptionally sharp, from a development standpoint. They are thin in terms of, like, not a lot of resources there. Yeah. They don't have, it's not like walking into Google or Facebook, right? It's a few guys, they know each other, maybe a few dozen total, who are actually working on this. They split up their tasks, so they have a handful working on Casper, a handful working on sharding, but, like, there's not, like, robust teams of amazing engineers. I mean, these guys are exceptional. I have absolute faith in them. But a lot of people just think, like, they'll definitely get it done. Kind of like Google will definitely get it done, or Facebook will definitely get it done. And I wouldn't put the same definitely on Ethereum unless projects like ours and other projects really step up to the plate and make sure, and just support the Ethereum Foundation and other projects that are actually accomplishing this stuff.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. I think that absolutely does. So I'm going to try and think of, I'm going to pull up like one last, I'll see if I can pull up one last question. Or maybe instead of just giving you a question, if there's anything kind of before you sign off here and we go into, and I'll from there hop into a bunch of all the other conversations with you guys as far as just the different coins. And if I hear Verge one more time, I'm going to jump out a bridge or jump off of a bridge out of a very tall building. But and I don't hate Verge, so stop complaining about that. But anything that you want to just kind of sign off with, or let anybody know, anything maybe that I missed in terms of questions here?
Yeah, a couple things. One, obviously, the plug, our token sale ends in a couple days, so get in while you can. But in all seriousness, Bloom ID goes live on January 1st.
Awesome.
With Bloom ID comes our decentralized voting DApp. We want as many people as possible to vote. This is the future of the network. We take decentralization and community absolutely highest priority. So we just want to raise awareness that starting on January 1st, you'll be able to take your Bloom tokens and actually put them to use, generating a Bloom ID, inviting people, and inside of our voting DApp. So if you do participate in the sale, it doesn't have to be a lot, but we just want to get as many people as possible to actually start using the system, so that we can have a strong community.
Awesome.
And then join our Slack. I'm on Slack all day. If you want to continue the conversation with me, there's like 10,000 people in there, but I'm in there all day right now. So awesome. You can go on our website and join Slack. And otherwise, just really great. HelloBloom.io is our website. Those are my plugs. Really great.
I'll throw that in the chat too.
To have to come on here. I watch whenever I can. I don't have a lot of time right now, but I watch. You're one of the very few YouTubers I personally subscribe to and watch consistently. Love everything
that.
You talk about. Love your analysis. Love how fair, balanced, and how you present all of the information. Not too much of an expert level, but also very good for experts to get a high-level overview. So it's perfect hybrid. And just really glad to be on the show. Really glad to be on the live stream here.
Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate having you. Definitely feel free to. I'm sure you're doing actual real work right now, so I don't want to interrupt you too much from there. But thanks for taking the time to hop on. And everybody else, gonna just kind of once Jesse signs off here, gonna hop into all your questions as far as ETH, Verge, Bitcoin, everything else going on. So I really do appreciate the time, Jesse.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And looking forward to keeping you posted.
Awesome, man. Take it easy. Have a good one.
Yep. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Awesome, guys. Let's go with let's hop into the questions. Sorry that I wasn't able to answer as many of those questions as So I possibly could, but I really did want to have a good conversation with Jesse there, and was happy to have that call, and hopefully that was somewhat enjoyable for you guys, and you got a good opportunity to learn a little bit maybe behind the scenes of an ICO and what's going on with that. So looking at some of these questions here. So somebody said, quit your day job and do crypto videos. I got a mortgage to pay for. I'm not doing that anytime soon, brother. Somebody said wallet for Bloom. It's an ERC20 token, so you would just use like My Ether wallet or whatever you would need. But there wouldn't be, I don't believe, a separate wallet there. Somebody said talk about the Korea news. We'll pop into that bad boy. We'll talk about Korea. What do we got here? So this was, I don't necessarily know if this was FUD or whatever you might want to consider it, but some interesting news came out about Korea today/yesterday, and this caused the price of Bitcoin to, I would say, dip fairly substantially. Bitcoin was up in the mid 1,500 range and is now down to just above $14,000. So it's definitely pulled back on this. Certainly pulled back on this news. And I look at this and I don't necessarily see like that I'm not really scared about this. I mean, I've gotten a chance to kind of live through a lot of these. I've gotten a chance to live through a lot of these, what XYZ country is going to ban Bitcoin. They're going to regulate crypto. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. If you guys were around, maybe you were, maybe you weren't, but what do you got? So like 3 months ago, I think it was, actually it might have been, here we go. So back in mid-September when China banned Bitcoin, basically, not necessarily banned Bitcoin, but first they banned ICOs and then they banned a bunch of other kind of crypto-related exchanges, and all the exchanges basically moved out of China. Bitcoin went down from $5,000 to all the way down to, dropped about 40% down to 2,900, just below 3,000 bucks, and that was an awesome dip to buy into. I bought a ton of Bitcoin when that dipped really hard. So that was I think a really solid time, and this isn't as big of a dip. I mean, it's not a 40% correction, but I also think that any time like this regulation news comes out, it doesn't necessarily scare me too much, and I'm not like petrified of, oh my God, we're not gonna make it. We're not gonna make it. So, am I worried about this? It's happened before. It'll happen again, and we'll go from there. We'll live. So somebody said, asking about Litecoin, and then somebody said, I don't know much about Litecoin. I mean, I know a good amount about Litecoin. I just don't necessarily don't have any like money in it. I use Litecoin now instead of Bitcoin or Ethereum to transfer between exchanges. If it's like taking it from GDAX to somewhere else, I actually use Litecoin. So I'm a fan of Litecoin. Litecoin is quite frankly one of the more functional cryptocurrencies, especially compared to Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin takes forever. The fees are super high. And, you could say Bitcoin is still my largest holding, so I'll preface it with that. But it is, in terms of live, I'm still a fan of Bitcoin I'm still a fan of Litecoin. I just don't have I don't really have a core position of Litecoin at all. So everybody and their mom wants to talk about Verge. Verge is I actually forgot that Verge used to be called Dogecoin Dark, which is pretty funny. Yeah, Verge has dropped off quite a bit in the past. Obviously, it pumped up. Verge pumped up, 3,000% in the course of 12 days, and then dropped off from its peak. It's dropped off right now. It's down about 42%. So, 3,000%, 42%. It's, that's pretty large, but I still do laugh that Verge is literally a Dogecoin fork. So that cracks me up every single time. That was McAfee. Yeah, and if you guys didn't see the security expert of all security experts, Johnny McAfee, just getting hacked, that was one of the more funny times on Twitter when somebody hacked him and was doing a coin of the day literally every 5 minutes and was just going all over the place. It was pretty hysterical. And so there's one person, I have no idea if you're still in here, but I got a super chat earlier, and I try to take as many questions as possible. I wasn't trying to have any super chats fly up while Jesse was on the screen, but if you have something that absolutely must be answered, throw it in a super chat, and I will definitely get to that. But I am McGlovin. What's up, Superbad? I don't know if you're still on the line by any chance, but you said, what's going on with Verge? Is it a scam? I don't know if it's a scam, but I mean, it's hard to, like, it's hard to say any crypto is a scam, and I wouldn't necessarily think Verge is a scam, but there could certainly be an element of pumping going on with Verge. I mean, you're talking about a 3,000% price increase. That is crazy. But is that justified? You make that decision on your own. I'm not going to say it's justified. I'm not going to say it's not. But it's hard for a cryptocurrency to be a scam unless it's one of those good old boys out there promising 1% daily returns and providing some 40% monthly dividend BS crap. So not there we go. His Twitter got hacked, not him. Well, if your Twitter got hacked, you got hacked. That's one and the same. That is one and the same. So looking through these questions as much as possible. So somebody said, I think everyone should approach cryptocurrency with the Warren Buffett mindset. So, I mean, you want to define the Warren Buffett mindset. I'm actually listening to his his biography on The Snowball by Alice Schroeder. I'm listening to that on Audible. Only problem is it's 37 hours long, but I'm a few hours into that. Really interesting book. Warren Buffett and crypto are not, they're not two peas in a pod, FYI. You can approach things with a Warren Buffett mindset, but Warren Buffett would not and is not really a fan of Bitcoin cryptocurrency. He can't attach a value to it. There's no way to properly value cryptocurrency. You could properly value Procter and Gamble because of how many toothbrushes they sell, but not the other way around. Dave Ramsey is down. Good old Dave Ramsey. So quick, Mathia, what is going on, dude? Personal thoughts on XRP and ETH. Why are you invested in them? So I don't have any money in Ripple, unfortunately. That would be a good place to have money in, especially recently, as a lot of the market has dipped and Ripple has held strong. Ripple is now the number 3 largest cryptocurrency. I believe it is actually, too, the largest in Silicon Valley and San Francisco. Ripple is now the most valuable private company over Uber, according to their last fundraising round, or according to Uber's last. Uber took a down round, so Ripple is now actually more valuable than Uber is, which is crazy. But I don't have any money in Ripple. Probably not the best move. I could have bought a shit ton of it at 25 cents. I didn't. And now I'm not necessarily super interested in buying at the all-time high when it's worth 55 bill. But Ripple's an interesting one. Ethereum, I have a decent size, like 15% of my portfolio is in Ethereum. I thought that Jesse's comments on since he's literally somebody like, when you think about Ethereum, everybody says, oh, Moon, Ethereum, blah, 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 Lambos. But you have to understand, like, one of the biggest value propositions to Ethereum now is building companies, building projects, building software on top of it. And you can hear some of the issues in terms of scalability from somebody like Jesse, who is literally going through the process right now of building out a company on top of Ethereum. So Ethereum obviously has a ways to go in terms of scaling, but so does basically everything else. What is your opinion on XRB? I'm not sure if it's on Coinigy. Let's see if it's on Coinigy. No, it's not on Coinigy because it's on some random exchanges. There's like 2 dudes on Twitter. I don't remember your names, but you've been calling XRB since it was like $1. Maybe $2. So sometimes, I mean, if you guys know me, when something pumps pretty hard, I'm kind of a chicken in terms of getting into it. And couple people were mentioning XRB back, like it pumped from 30 something cents all the way up to like $1.50. And a lot of people were in the YouTube chats being like, hey, XRB is legit. You should check it out. And I was like, yeah, I'll check it out. I'll look at it. But I never put in any money into it. XRB has, it's kind of, I think it's been able to ride not necessarily the coattails, but it's an alternative to IOTA. And I think a lot of people that are new to the space look at this as, hey, IOTA is like 10 billion bucks. This Ryblox was $100 million or $200 million, now 1.8 billion bucks. That is a good place for us to park some money and a good place for us to, maybe see some growth and get to that IOTA level. And it's making some moves. So Ryblox killing it. And to the folks that mentioned Ryblox early on, good on you, because I did not make that move and you guys called that early on. So good on you. Lol, Ripple is taking over. Bobby doesn't get it. I mean, what's there to get? There's only so many cryptocurrencies. Nothing grinds my gears more than when somebody is like, yo, you don't invest in this cryptocurrency, so you hate this cryptocurrency and you hate me and you hate everything and blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't, just because I don't have money in Ripple doesn't mean I hate it, doesn't mean I hate you, doesn't mean I don't get it. I get it, but I only have so many dollars, so many Bitcoin to spread around. And I'm going to put my portfolio the way I'm going to put my portfolio together. You do you, I do me. Gamino, great work. Keep it up. Thank you very much, dude. I appreciate that. Somebody said, Chris Garcia, thank you very much for that super chat. Matt Flash, are you thinking of getting into bread? I actually just got into bread. I think it was last night. I threw a little bit of money into bread on Binance and, threw a little bit of money into bread on Binance. So that started to build that position. I got to update my portfolio on the website, so I'll do that. I have Ethereum Classic, and I'm thinking I kind of have the urge to ditch Ethereum Classic. It's actually at a loss right now for me, so I might take that loss too in 2017 for a capital gains loss. So I might try to do that too. But I just got into bread a little bit, but I definitely want a dollar cost average in over the long term. I'm excited, fairly excited about bread. Bobby, do you listen to Selena Gomez? Yeah, all the time, man, all the time. She's one of my favorite artists. She's actually at my alarm clock when I wake up in the morning. Trevor, what's up, dude? Coinbase $20 network fee. Will it go down? I mean, that's a lot has to do with Bitcoin, to be pretty frank. I mean, it's not cheap to send Bitcoin regardless. If you're using Coinbase, if you're using a Ledger, if you're using Binance, if you're using any exchange, if you're using really anything, it's not cheap to send. It's not cheap to send Bitcoin anywhere. Gulam, thank you for that super chat. Appreciate it, dude. Chris Garcia, thoughts on Lisk? So I don't have any money in Lisk, but I like the platform plays. That is one of my biggest. I really like, whether it's my biggest play right now outside of Bitcoin is Cardano. I am just piling up Cardano and literally every day, just piling it up. But I also like Lisk as well. I think that anything is necessarily a potential. I think that anything out there that is necessarily a potential Ethereum competitor or an Ethereum killer, whatever it might be, then that's something that I have some interest in. And granted, I have a good holding of Ethereum, but I think platform plays in general are really interesting and they're very hard to value. And that's a big reason why I like it. And platforms, typically when you look at it, platforms in comparison to the D apps, they are much higher. You look at the average valuation, so we'll go into on-chain FX right now. I'll pop over to the sectors, and we'll pop open to general purpose platform. You look at the valuations for a lot of these platforms, they're high. You got Ethereum at 70 billion, Cardano at 10 billion, NEM at 8, EOS at 5, NEO at 4, Qtum at 4, ETC at close to 3, Lisk at 2.5, Waves at 1.2. Platforms are general purpose, computing platforms are definitely, I think, a really interesting place to have your money. Somebody said Steam has a cool platform. I like Steam. I post on Steam, and I've started to get paid on Steam. Shout out to Jahal Files on Steam, because That guy's my man. So thank you, Jahal Files, if you're listening. But Steam is interesting, but it's not a general purpose platform. So Steam is different than, you know, a quote unquote general purpose platform. So Rohan said Lisk versus Stratus versus Komodo. Nobody talks about the latter two. I mean, I think people do talk about Stratus and Komodo. So we'll pull up Stratus, we'll pull up Komodo, and we'll talk about them briefly. And then we'll talk about ICX as well. So get out of Ryblox. Shout out again to the guy who told me Ryblox was going to be worth $1 bajillion, and it now is. Dylan, what's up? Texas, what is going on? What about Tezos? Tezos has to stop suing each other, and and then they'll be okay. But until they can get out of, you know, internal litigation between Tezos and the Tezos Foundation, they in trouble. So luckily, I didn't participate in the Tezos ICO. So Stratus is more of, I would say, like an enterprise-focused blockchain, or they're trying to be more of an enterprise-focused blockchain. And then on the other end of the house, Komodo is also another one where they are trying to enable the creation of blockchain solutions as well. So I would say it's a little bit maybe different. Both of them are perhaps a little bit different than like the general purpose. But let me see too. They might be. I'm curious if they have, if they're in enterprise or what they might be here. Let's see. If there is Stratus. So I'm curious what on-chain FX actually classifies Stratus. And let's see if Komodo's on here too. So here we go. Curious. So Stratus they classify as application development, which is pretty similar to a general purpose platform. And then Komodo they classify as a currency. But yeah, initially launched as a currency platform and it's rebranding now. Rebrands typically do well from a, whether or not there's anything behind the rebrand whatsoever, rebrands typically do very, very well. Do you play music and instruments? I played guitar for like a week. I suck at it. I have no musical talent whatsoever at all. What hair pomade do you use? What my barbershop sells. So any thoughts on ICX? Oh, actually, Tyler, I missed yours. So ETHLend is one. We'll pop over to that. I think somebody mentioned it's not available to folks in the U.S. It's up a smooth 45% today. So nice pop from ETHLend. All-time highs as of the time being right now. Peer-to-peer lending is an interesting. It's an interesting thing for sure on the on the blockchain, or it's really interesting. I've personally put money into like the traditional peer-to-peer lenders. I've invested a little bit into Lending Club, and I wish when I invested in Lending Club I just put all that money into crypto, because the Lending Club I'm getting like a 4% interest rate on Lending Club after all the defaults that I've had on the loans, and crypto would have been like a 10-15x. So my taste for peer-to-peer lending isn't always great. It's really interesting, but I think if and when a platform like ETHLend or some of the other ones, whether it's Salt, can come out and actually build some stability, it's a fairly big industry. I mean, let's pop over here to Lending Club. Got crushed in the stock market, but I mean they're still how big are they? A $1.73 billion company. So if somebody could be theoretically the Lending Club of crypto, you could have a pretty significant market capitalization there for sure. And then any thoughts on ICX? I'm gonna pop that bad boy up. Icon. Another one up, wow, $15 billion against Bitcoin, which has not had a great day to, had a great day. Somebody said Bitcoin is dying. Get rid of it while you can. Alter the future. So I don't want to say I agree with that, but I don't necessarily. I think things can coexist. Number one, I've personally gone through a couple different phases in like my time where I've been like very much like not on the Bitcoin train and heavy in Ethereum and heavy in altcoins. But if you have that specific train of thought, you're going to close yourself off to a lot of opportunities, at least in my opinion. You don't want to necessarily just have that train of thought, because there are a lot of times where it pays to have your money in Bitcoin instead of some of the altcoins. So yeah, who knows? But getting back to it, so Icon here, this was another one that we had talked about. I think we talked about this one fairly recently. I haven't gotten a chance to go through the white paper in general on this one. I mean, it has popped up obviously quite a bit. It's $2 billion. It's gone up from, in the beginning of November, this was way less than 500 mil, all the way up until really December, when the market cap, I don't even know when the market cap actually came live, but Icon has just popped through the roof. So I need to do a little bit more due diligence on these guys to see kind of what is driving that valuation in total. But for me to give you, real specific advice on ICX, or not necessarily advice, but just commentary, it's tough. Somebody said Bitcoin is slow and high fees. Yeah, it is now. Hopefully there's scale. Hopefully they can figure out some of the scalability issues, because I think anything on a blockchain right now, we're coming to a realization that blockchain, in a lot of respects, whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's Ethereum, whether it's basically anything out there that has some modicum of usage, it doesn't scale that well. So that's why projects like Cardano are interesting to me. That's why I think Ripple is like something that a lot of people love. IOTA that's one of the big reasons IOTA popped. Ryblox popped, because even if they can't do that, then even if they can't scale as well, something to consider. So Gabriel, what's up, dude? My Bitcoin is down that I wanted to buy altcoins. Wait till it goes up to buy alts. Still probably need to pay off my fee. How that is down to. So my Bitcoin is down. Wanted to buy altcoins. Should I wait till it goes up to buy altcoins, or do I still need to pay off my fees? I mean, I think I wouldn't let Bitcoin being down. I mean, you have to look at the Bitcoin to whatever the Bitcoin ratios are too. I mean, if you're looking at whatever altcoins you want to look at, but I mean, if we pop over to like something like Binance here and see kind of, I mean, there's obviously a ton of pairings, but let's just say for examples purposes, because somebody else asked about Cardano, so I'll bring that up. But if you're looking at something like Cardano, we'll pull it up on the 4-hour charts against Bitcoin. Yes, your Bitcoin might have gone down, but also Cardano went down as well. So even if your Bitcoin went down, a lot of the rest of the market did. So if you've really been trying to get into a couple altcoins, then go for it. And then somebody else, Mathai, mentioned why you invested in Cardano. I think Cardano has a really interesting way of attacking governments or addressing blockchain cryptocurrency decentralized governance, because as you might see, if you're ever on Twitter, if you're on any of these social networks, if you're on Reddit, scaling Bitcoin is a contentious thing. Scaling Ethereum is not necessarily anywhere near as contentious, but it's still an issue. There are a lot of governance concerns. Who has the power? Is it the miners? Is it the community? Is it the developers? Is it the businesses? There's no really good way in terms of understanding governance, and the way that Cardano is creating a multi-layered platform, basically, where there's kind of the initial layer, which is the blockchain focused layer, and then there's a computing layer on top of it that takes some of the stress away, so you're not running CryptoKitties computations on the actual Ethereum or on the Cardano solution itself. I think it's really interesting. Granted, I mean, is it a pretty rich valuation right now at $10 billion? Yeah, absolutely. But for me, and this is me personally, this is just my own thoughts, but I don't see any reason personally why something like Cardano couldn't be as valuable as Bitcoin Cash is right now, in that kind of range, potentially as much as Ripple. And if that happens, then you're talking about a 4 or 5x, which is pretty substantial. And that's kind of what I'm going for with Cardano. And I've taken up a pretty big position in it myself personally. So that's my one of my just I would say not moonshot bet because it's already so large, but I think something that I personally believe has a fairly substantial chance at pulling a 3 to 4x. So going through some of these questions, somebody said, why don't you day trade? I'm just not, I don't want to sit here and be like, yo, I'm the best day trader on the planet. I know all these signals and I understand all these signals. I'm not. I've played around with day trading before just to get a little bit of a dopamine hit every once in a while, but I'm not a day trader. That's not what I'm good at. I really don't have any necessarily incredibly special skills or expert skills in this in general, but I like to just do research on crypto, see what I think could have a really good chance of succeeding, and then hold medium to long-term investments, typically, probably a minimum of 2 weeks, and then long-term a couple months to longer than that. So we'll see. So JJ's 2 questions there. Anthony Guarino, what is up, Justin Guarino from American Idol? I'm kidding. That was a terrible joke. Binance Coin. So I use Binance. That's probably my go-to exchange right now, actually. That's really my go-to exchange for the most part over even Bittrex now. But I don't have a ton of money in Binance Coin in general. I don't necessarily see a massive reason to throw a bunch of money into it. So somebody said he's a kid. That is a red flag to me. He has no experience. I don't know if that's to me or if that's to somebody else, but whatever. So thoughts on Flash and Rain? What is this, like a lightning storm? Flash and rain, thunder, lightning? These crypto names, it's too much. It's too much. Flash is 12 billion bucks. Personally, I have not even looked at the website before. It's up 100% today. It's been around since July. I have small payments, low transactions, high speed. Buzzwords. Now, I don't really know too much about. I don't know too much about Flash personally, but I do know that anytime a cryptocurrency out there says it has low transaction fees, it works fast, and it is functional, those coins can spike pretty hard. This might be the next one that spikes up a bunch. Who knows? I don't have any money in Flash. Let's see where it's traded on. It's on Cryptopia. I don't even have a Cryptopia account personally, but yeah, that one's popping up. And then Condensate. I like the logo. You got a little raindrops. I haven't. I don't know enough about this one to really give you anything at all. I don't know what page this is on CoinMarketCap, but it's $11,000 or $11,000 in daily volume. I might have $11,000 in daily volume, and less than $2 billion, and market cap a little bit too small for me to play around with. So thoughts on Bounty 0x? I'll pop that bad boy up. Bounty. Another one that's up 50% today, $30 million market cap. That is, I'm assuming, a pretty recent ICO. Actually, these guys were in my email quite a bit. And I did not respond, which maybe I should have because they're not doing too bad. But yeah, so these guys sent me a few different emails in regards to their crypto. I didn't have a chance. I had a little bit of a chance to give it a high level look, but I haven't gone into them too much in depth. But part of me really does think that like a lot of these smaller cryptocurrencies are just pumping because of the size, and then somebody sees a $30 million cryptocurrency and they're like, I'll pump. Yeah. So David, hey, what's up, dude? I think I said what's up beforehand, but what's going on, my man? I think you're coming to New York in February, I believe. So hopefully we get to hang out then. But yeah, David, I just saw that. I didn't get a chance to watch his full video, but he did a video on Binance Coin. So BNB, if whoever had that question on Binance, BNB, check out David Hayes' channel. He did, I think, a pretty extensive walkthrough on that. So Marcus has a good question. Marcus Gunter, what is going on, dude? I appreciate the super chat. Why do these companies need their own currency? Why can't they just raise USD and use the blockchain technology? That is a good question. A very good question. So you kind of need to address that on an individual project basis. You need to really address that on an individual project basis. Some companies really don't need their own currency. Like, there's no way to go around it. Some companies do not need, in a lot of cases, they're not currencies really. A lot of them are just ERC20 tokens. And the big thing is you need to ask, why does a company have a token and what is the actual usage of it? What is the economics of it? And should they have just raised a traditional ICO funding round and then utilized blockchain technology? That is a legitimate question, but it's something that does really need to be addressed on a per project basis. There are a lot of crypto coins out there that really just don't have a good usage for the token, and there's no reason why that they should have a token in place. And it's just a token was there because they wanted to raise money quicker, faster from maybe non-institutional investors. They wanted to just raise a bunch of money from retail investors and go from there. So Evan Harper mentioned, why did I participate in the Bloom ICO if there's no ROI? So number one, I would say that, and I don't want to speak for Jesse. He's not on the line anymore. But when you are creating a utility token, the token is supposed to have a certain level of utility, meaning that when you use the token, you're supposed to get value out of utilizing the token. So when you use the token, you're supposed to get value out of utilizing the token. A utility token is not a security token, where a security token is supposed to have a specific ROI. You're supposed to be able to, you're supposed to expect you're supposed to expect a certain level of ROI associated with a security token. One thing too that, from just overall speaking, if you promise any level of returns to investors or ICO participants, you're going to open yourself up to a world of potential legal hurt in the future. There are a couple companies. There was one company, I forget, I think it was Munchie in Silicon Valley in California, that got a cease and desist letter from the Securities and Exchange Commission because they had some element of promising profits or promising an ROI. So you can't really promise any type of ROI or even kind of mention the fact that you might. In a lot of cases, what you're doing, what you're betting on with the utility token is you're betting that the utility of holding or utilizing either the Bloom platform or whatever ICO it is, any ICO, if it's a utility token, you're betting that the platform or the utility that they're utilizing or that they're creating becomes more valuable, so that your tokens rise in value as well. And ideally speaking, you actually, when you invest in one of these, or when you participate in one of these ICOs, you want to utilize it or have some element of it. So, dude, what's up? What's up, Joseph? But so ideally you want to utilize it, but there are a lot of people that are just purely speculating on, hey, I think the value of this is going to go up. So Chris Go, can you do a quick review on XP coin? Yeah, I can pop over to that real quick. Experience points. I'm going to hop out a bunch of these. Another crypto that is spiking through the roof. Geez, this was... Wow. Man, crypto is ridiculous. What do we have in a month? Let's see the month chart on experience points. This was trading at less than $1 million at the end of November and is now up to hit $1 million or $100 million bucks. So it pulled 100x in 18 days. It pulled 100x, then fell 75%, and then now is back up to pulling, back up to its original 100x, back up to about 96 million. So, like, if this isn't crypto, I don't know what is, where something starts and just has, I have no idea specifically around why this might be valuable or kind of what the deal is there with experience points. But I mean, that's one heck of an initial kind of pump, and then a recovery from a 60-70% dip. I mean, that's pretty substantial. So, I mean, as far as the actual product itself goes, I don't know how substantially this might be utilized in the future, and whether it's video games or education or sports. Who knows if this really deserves a $100 million valuation or not? Who am I to say that? But I know that the incentive rewards, that type of thing it's an interesting use case, but it's not something that necessarily gets me super excited about it. So Crusader General, thank you very much for that super generous super chat. I really do appreciate that. That's no joke, so I appreciate that. Can you please cover Verify Cred? So this is, I'm assuming, a recent ICO as well. A lot of new. It is impossible to keep up with the amount of tokens that are happening pretty much the amount of tokens, the amount of platforms that are coming up on a consistent basis. Do you ever get sick of talking about crypto? No, this is like, I go to bed sleeping about this stuff. Sometimes I wake up and, get a little urge to check Blockfolio, but outside of that now, man, it's awesome. So distributed reputation protocol built on the Ethereum blockchain. This is the future of trust. So I don't know how this might. So we'll pull up how it works. How this might be different than something like Augur, which is Augur's token is literally rep. What do we got? Rep. Yeah, Augur's token is literally rep. So I don't know if this is specifically a competitor to Augur, something similar to Augur. Augur is a prediction market, and then you get kind of these reputation tokens when you engage in the prediction market and you participate in the beta. And this is one of the first Ethereum tokens out there. Augur hit $1 billion pretty recently. Now is, I think, a little bit below that, but I'm curious to see kind of how this might. Curious to see I might have to play around with the MVP, the demo of this. This could be an interesting one. And that's one thing, too, that I definitely recommend with crypto in general is trying to play around with as many of these like MVPs as product, as many of the minimum viable products as you possibly can. I would try to do that. So like Augur, I would recommend joining the beta to see like what it's like, what the deal is there. I would recommend checking out the demo, the MVP of this, of Verify, so you can get a little bit of a feel for that as well. So that's something that I think is really interesting. And I also recommend too, I mean, just in terms of generally supporting like the crypto world, I try to do that as much as possible, whether it's, I know I'm in Chrome right now, but I also use the Brave browser as well. So like certain things like that, Steam it. I'm going to start using props when the Rise platform comes out in Q1. I'm definitely going to, start playing around with that, streaming on that too. So that's something that, can you recommend? Chris, can you recommend forums that aren't shill/spam? So that's tough. Really good question. That's tough. I would see if there's any Slack groups that you can, I would recommend, and I don't know where you live, but one of the big things for me that's been great is I've met a couple different people. I'm actually going to lunch with one of the guys from the meetup that I talk about, where I found Cardano and where I found VeChain, that both popped off. VeChain specifically the other day. What do you got? VeChain was up quite a bit the other day. What do you got here? Yeah, nice move from VeChain. But getting lunch with one of the guys from that hosts the meetup group, and he runs a Slack in New York that is like a very filtered place. And that's, if you can try to find like invite only things, I think that's helpful, because sometimes even like Reddit's great, but you have to filter through a lot of crap to get to where you want to go, unfortunately. So Craig Cullen mentions, can I check out Hedge? Another one that's having a nice little bit of a run here. It's a trading platform that will be supposed to be fully functional in Q2. I guess you want to keep around and see what kind of the deal is with. So it's on HIP, BTC, Ether Delta, Yobit. But yeah, I mean, maybe keep it on the radar. Who knows what this might end up doing when the platform becomes fully operational in Q2? But that's a long way out for me, at least in crypto. I mean, Q2 is a lot could happen. Bitcoin could be worth $50,000. Bitcoin could be worth $5,000. Ethereum could be up. Ethereum could be down. So having something that's that far out, not as appealing to me as some of the other things. So somebody said eCoin. Let's see, is that the same thing? So I'm assuming this is eCoin or eCurrency coin. You guys love these sub $50 million market caps, don't you? This is every coin I'm getting asked about is some sub $50 million market cap that I may or may not have ever heard of. Here's an opportunity to grab it at very cheapest price. So, I don't know too much about these guys. These could be the nicest people in the world. I mean, the website off the top, not a big fan of the stock photo, woman staring me in the face, and then the typo in the first sentence. Here is an opportunity to grab it at very cheapest priced. More than 1 million businesses have accepted as early bird. Like, just off the top, let's see if somebody else is saying something else. ECC, eCurrency coin. So maybe I'm looking at the wrong one. So ECC, okay. Well, hopefully ECC is better than ECN. So you guys were scaring me a little bit. I was, I didn't want to say anything negative, but how am I supposed to look at this website? Yeah. Well, they got a white paper, and they got a wallet that may or may not infect my computer with a lot of negative things. Nah, I don't know. Yeah, I haven't read the white paper, so they gotta put a little bit more work into the old website. Satoshi's original vision: peer-to-peer electronic cash. So somebody else, Aussie Crypto, what is up from, I'm assuming, Australia? What's up, Aussie Crypto? Can you give thoughts on Substratum? So I know there's a couple guys on YouTube that like Substratum quite a bit. I think like DataDash has been on these guys for a long time and even met with him in person. So good on him. I think he's been on them pretty early. I mean, probably sub $30 million market cap, and they're up to what, 240? So I think I think Substratum definitely benefits from, has the potential to benefit quite a bit from the whole net neutrality debate or the whole net neutrality stuff going into action. I think even if that has nothing to do, and even if Substratum gets like no benefit whatsoever from the implications of net neutrality, then people will still put money into it regardless. So something to consider there. I mean, as far as the price action goes, pretty significant returns over the past month. I mean, you're talking close to 10x, a little bit. 2 months, definitely 10x. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens with a lot of these. And somebody had a good point there too, where said, "I can't wait for the day when survival of the fittest hits crypto and crap versions of other coins just die out." I mean, I think that there is has nothing to do with Substratum at all. But I think that is going to be interesting. I mean, when you look at CoinMarketCap right now, there are 1,300 currencies listed, 1,379 cryptocurrencies listed. So, I mean, there's a lot. And a lot of them do not have inherent value. A lot of them are not necessary. A lot of them are repetitive, et cetera, et cetera. Engine coin, I should not have sold my engine coin early on. ENJ crushing it. I missed out on a nice 5 times gain after the ICO. Let's see here. Thank you, Chris. Somebody said too many dirty coins that idiots buy into. I don't want to call people idiots, but I mean there are every single time you want to do your own research, and I know like people like I know a lot of YouTubers and like other people say like do your own research to cover their ass, and then like provide them with whatever information to not do their own research. But I really like no BS think that you should really, really, really do your own research, like a significant amount of research. You should not buy into a cryptocurrency before you read the white paper, before you try to see what the general market consensus is on it, and a lot of other things as well. So I would definitely say, yeah, not idiots, but degenerate gamblers, Hodl Monkey said. So somebody else, let's see here. Somebody mentioned what mobile wallet do you use? I do not use a mobile wallet. I pretty much exclusively use a hardware wallet. I use a Ledger Nano S, and that's just the way that I go about it. For the most part, I use a Ledger Nano S. So Peter mentioned, do you have an affiliate link for the Ledger? We'll buy one today. If you go in the description below, there should be a link. If you go into the description on this video, if anybody wants to get a Ledger and help your boy out, because I'm starving because I don't sling BitConnect referral links. But no, I'm kidding. I have a full-time job. But I do appreciate any clicks on referral links. I really, no BS do. But if you go to the description below, there is a link for the Ledger Nano S on Amazon or on the Ledger website itself. Crusader General, thank you very much for another very, very kind super chat. That is awesome. So I'll get to Greg Novak's first. Have I looked into KCS? I will definitely pop that bad boy open. Yeah, I earned these Bitcoins, bro. No, I bought them. I bought them with my hard-earned money. Qcoin. Qcoin crushing it, eh? So I don't know how much this one might differ from. So I don't really know how much this one might differ from, like Binance and BNB. How the token differs itself. I personally use Binance. I've never used the Qcoin exchange. So I don't know necessarily too much on it. I believe, and if I'm not nuts, let me see where they're headquartered out of, if they even have that here. But I believe this is an Asian exchange, if I'm not totally stupid, which I typically am pretty stupid. Yeah, so Ant Financial, which is part of, they got Civic, Omise Go, Status, Tether, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so it's an Asian, it's an Asian exchange. I don't know how much different it is from Binance, though, personally. So from an investment perspective, I'm not a massive, although, you can see the market and see the performance itself. I'm not a huge fan of like buying some of these exchange crypto, some of these exchange cryptos. I hold enough BNB token or Binance coin or whatever you want to call it. I hold enough BNB to get the benefits of like the reduced fees, but I don't necessarily use, I don't necessarily like buy it as an investment. So getting back to the comments there, Crusader General, again, appreciate it, dude. That is super, super kind to you. So let's look at Denta. $200 million market cap. I remember when this ICO'd, and I looked at it and I was like, what in God's green earth is this ICO? So I'll pull up the white paper. I haven't watched the video, but this is actually, so I haven't done a ton from a team perspective and kind of looking at it, but I was literally, So this it almost reminds me a little bit of, so I was skiing like 2 weeks ago. I was with my buddy, Jordan, who's sometimes in the chat. And I was skiing with my buddy, and one of my contacts got messed up, and I was only skiing for the day, and my contact fell out, and I was driving back from like Connecticut, and I needed to get like either new contact lenses or glasses because I literally can't see without contacts and I'm blind. And we were sitting in Pearl Vision, had to wait like an hour. And we were sitting there like, yo, this would be genius if somebody like put all of the eye records on a blockchain. And then my buddy's like, yo, we should do an ICO. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do an ICO. So if you're watching this and you want to do, and you're probably going to make a couple $1,000,000 and I'm going to hate you for it because I didn't do it. But, putting all the eye records on putting all the records for prescriptions in the US, because I literally had to have my prescription like faxed to me because I couldn't get glasses without prescriptions. It was like harder than buying drugs on Silk Road to get all that done. So if you want to make an eyeglass thing, then we'll we'll do it. But I mean, as far as Dentacoin goes, I would need to do a little bit more research to see if it's legit. I mean, the medical field is fairly interesting. There is that whole deal with HIPAA, which is depending upon, and I don't know how often HIPAA comes into place here, but that is that's something that you might want to look out to. But there's a lot of regulatory stuff going on and things like that. And somebody said it's a HIPAA violation. It certainly might be. But real quick there too, guys, if you are new to the channel by any chance as well, I know we still got about 1,000 people here. Sorry, I've been going on for an hour and a half or so. But if you are new to the channel by any chance, hit the subscribe button, the notify bell next to that. And that way, the next time I do go live, then you can join right from the beginning. Hopefully, you've had a good time with this one. Running out of drink, but I don't feel like going downstairs because I'm lazy. Somebody said thoughts on Bounty. I actually covered that previously. Yeah, click the like button. I would definitely appreciate that, Dylan and everybody else. Kevin said, can't decide if I really care about crypto anymore. Just want to drink good whiskey with a cool dude at this hour. Well, I don't know what cool dude you're talking about, but if you want to drink whiskey at this hour, then go right ahead, my man. Go right ahead. So why... So somebody said, why 0x over other platform kinds? Yippee-ki-yay. Yippee-ki-yay. 0x is interesting from a decentralized exchange perspective. I think they have a solid team in place and really good connections in Silicon Valley, which is one of the big reasons I like them. So that's kind of why I have a little bit of money in 0x. The portal app is pretty cool if you played around with this at all in terms of if you're trying to, there's actually some utility for the 0x token, but if you're trying to use, kind of switch, let's say 0x token. If you're selling 0x token, maybe you want to buy EOS, you can do that. Or if you want to buy something else, Qtum, a number of other cryptos out there, you can go through that process. I think that 0x and Kyber are both interesting from a decentralized platform play for sure. What will it take for people to actually use tokens instead of investing in them? Isn't utilization the purpose? Yes, Marcus, that is absolutely true. And I completely agree with you on that. I think that right now, the valuation of basically every one of these crypto assets has far outpaced the actual utility of these of the valuation. So these coins are worth a lot more than they're actually being used for, whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's Ethereum, whether it's basically anything out there. For the most part, the valuation is much higher. What will it take for people to actually use these tokens instead of just investing in them? I think the usability has to improve. I think that in a lot of cases, like even with like Bitcoin or Litecoin or some of these other things or anything out there, like it's still, I mean, in my opinion, for most people, it's easier to use Venmo than it is to send Bitcoin to somebody else. Just easier to use Venmo for most people. It's probably easier to develop an application on Amazon Web Services and, run it there in a centralized manner, run it with centralized servers or something like that than it is to develop something on Ethereum right now. So there are a lot of things that I think need catching up to do. I think, everybody who's on this is still pretty early on, but it's a really good question. That's why ETN will creep up on everybody's smartphones in the near future. I don't necessarily agree with that, but who knows? Awesome. Well, at this point in time, guys, I'm gonna head out. Coming up on an hour 45 minutes here, so I'm going to head out for the evening. But if you guys have any questions, definitely sound off in the comments, and happy to take those later on. But I really do appreciate the time so much. All the questions. Hope you enjoyed the initial interview with Jesse, and then the content later on, and then we'll go from there. Thank you guys so much for the time. Appreciate it. Have a good one. Peace. Just kidding. I'm going to come back one more time. I'm going to come back one more time here. Let's see if this works. So just kidding. I'm going to come back one more time. Sorry for that. I just got one last super chat. So nobody else throwing a super chat, but I'll answer one last question because Crusader General asked it, and I can hopefully provide a little bit of context there. But yeah, I can't let a $25 super chat go to waste and have you not have your question answered. So sorry about that. But yeah, so somebody, Crusader General, asked about Bread. And Bread was an ICO. It is an existing wallet. Some of you might use their mobile wallet. I think that from the perspective of why Bread is interesting, they have a solid team in place. They've had a pretty, I would say, not a small initial valuation, but they raised a modest amount initially. They are already pretty valuable in terms of $100 million market capitalization in general, but I do think it has the potential to grow a fair amount. So I personally do like Bread. I've started to build a small position in it, but this was an ICO that happened. I think they raised $12 million pre-sale, $20 million crowd sale, and then they have since had their valuation go up quite a bit. So if you participate in the ICO, obviously that was a really solid one to do. I had a chance to speak to the team very briefly via email. So I am I'm a fan of that. I think that they have a nice opportunity to really expand upon the fact, outside of just being a wallet for crypto, they have an opportunity to be a lot more than that, kind of serving as somewhat of like a decentralized bank. And if anybody has a pretty decent opportunity to do that, Bread might have that. Bread might have that. So really, for me, Bread is a bet on the company behind it, as well as the founding team, and then going into the slight potential that they could potentially become a kind of a decentralized crypto bank per se. But yeah, hopefully that helped out to, hopefully that helped Crusader, and I appreciate those super chats, man, very much. And everybody else that had regular questions, super chats, whatever. Guys, thank you so much for the time. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to sign out now, get some dinner, but I hope you have an awesome one. Peace.